there's a lot of experiences that helped me in the past to make me successful in real estate. Here's a few of them. Right out of high school, I was coaching my little sister's softball team because I adore her. She's my little sister, right? To this day, those are memories I'll never forget, and I cherish those memories. And that was my first time to have a true leadership role. There I was, a young adult, still in high school. Now I was tasked on teaching these little girls softball. Not only that, but making sure I didn't destroy their love of softball, because unfortunately we see that a lot in kids' sports, where you have a coach come in or a parent come in and they're yelling, they're screaming, they don't deal with the kids properly. And what could have been a passion for somebody, could have taken them all the way through and outside of college, is ruined at a young age. And I'm lucky that I saw that so early in my days, because, what works with one person doesn't work with another. So there were girls like my little sister. I could push her. A little harder. I could talk to her a lot different than some of the other girls. So I could tell my sister, hey, what are you thinking? What are you doing? Like, come on, pay attention, step it up. Like, you're better than this. But if I took that same approach with another girl, they would break down. They would cry. They would probably just lay down in the middle of the field. So I'd have to come in with a softer heart, be a lot kinder. Hey, you could do this. You've got it. Stand up. Show me what you have. And there's no difference in real estate. So we've got so many different people involved in a transaction, and you need to learn how to work with those people really quickly. Some of my veterans, they're fun to work with, because I know I could call them up on the phone and say, what are you doing? You are messing up massively. Do you just want to give up your money? Like, if you want to hand over your money to me, feel free. Because you're not doing your job. And if you don't do your job, we can't get you closed on this house, and you're risking everything you've put into it so far. And they could take that. They could handle it. Other clients, some of my first time home buyers that aren't veterans, would break down and cry and freak out. Same thing with lenders. Lenders that are veterans, I could call and yell and scream at, and they'll be like, man, let me get my stuff together. Where if I do that with somebody that's just been in the civilian side all their life, I do that to them, they're going to shut down. They're going to quit working on the file. They're not going to push hard to get things done. And it's crazy to think that something I learned when I was 17, 18 years old as a softball coach at, the Kingwood Girls Softball Association is now something I apply to real estate every single day. Out of high school, one of my first real jobs was a professional horseback rider. I had grown up riding horses all my life. I've showed across the United States and had a ton of fun doing it. So I decided, let's go become an instructor. Let's go teach other people how to ride horses. And at one point I had over 55 clients, and I saw them anywhere from 1 to 4 times a week. And they were ages of, kindergarten all the way up to 40s, 50s. In that realm of my life, I learned a lot about patience, a lot about listening to people's needs and wants, and time management. When you're sitting on top of a horse or you're instructing somebody really in anything, sometimes it doesn't click. It doesn't just snap, especially when you know it so well and you think, oh, this is an easy concept. Why don't you get it? Well, you've been doing it for a long time. And in real estate, it's the same thing. Hey, drop off this option fee, drop off this earnest money. This needs to get to a certain place at a certain time. And they're like, I don't get it. Why? Why is the appraisal taking so long? And you always have to remember, as a realtor, as a professional, you need to take a step back and go, okay, this person's never done this before. I've done it many times, or they've done it a couple of times, but it's been 5, 6, 7 years and the contracts have changed. I need to be patient. I need to take my time explaining things, make sure they understand. And that resolves a lot of issues that might have come up, listening to each individual's needs. So I'd have, really young kids come in and their needs weren't to go become a massive horseback rider and go show across the United States and end up in the Olympics. Not at that time in their life. And that time in their life, they're there to learn. They're there to grow. They're there to have fun more than anything. And then I had older clients that their goals were to go compete. Are their goals to go to A&M and try out for the equestrian team and make it and compete at a high level. And then you take that to real estate. Like I could tell you as a first-time home buyer, one of my favorite aspects is buy a house that needs a little TLC, stuff you could do yourself. Get rid of that wallpaper, update little things here and there, and here's some tips on how to do it cheap and build that equity with sweat equity. But that's not everybody's needs. Sometimes they need something turnkey because they don't have that DIY mindset, or they just don't like attention to detail. And if I try to push them towards a house that needs a little TLC, when they call me to sell it in the future, it's going to be difficult. Either they didn't do any of it or they did it very wrong. So now it's going to cost them more money, and that's money they never intended on spending. So listening to our clients and knowing what they're really looking for can really take your business to the next step off of that simple thing. And then time management. I think it's one of the biggest struggles for anybody, not just real estate agents. So there I was with 55 clients. Everybody was coming at different times. Being organized was key. And I had a paper calendar, and I miss that paper calendar. I do, even though everything's digital now. But I'd use that paper calendar and I'd have to schedule everything out and say, here's the times I'm taking off for lunch and breakfast and dinner. Here's my days off so I don't go crazy. Here's the days that I'm going to go call people and see who wants to learn how to ride horses. Everything had to be scheduled out. That way, the time I spent was productive at all times. And there's no difference in real estate. We need to sit down and we need to figure out what our perfect day looks like. What time are we waking up? What times are we spending for ourselves and taking care of ourselves? What times are we taking care of clients and prospecting for clients? Learning that skill is something that I've used throughout my life ever since I learned it as a professional horseback rider. In the Marine Corps, I learned that the small things matter in life, even the smallest details and the smallest tasks. There I was in early 2008 getting yelled and screamed at and taught how to make a bed. I've been making a bed all my life. But in the Marine Corps, they have a special way of making it. You have to have hospital folds on the ends. You have to have the bottom sheet showing 6 inches. Then you have a fold that's another 6 inches. And then that rack needs to be tight. For those of you that don't know, a rack is also called a bed. And why does that matter? Why does making your bed, with 6 inches versus 5.5 matter at all? Why does having these perfect corners matter? It didn't make sense at the time. And as I sat back and as I watched and as I learned and I looked at the reactions of the drill instructors on certain things, it started making sense because it's in the small things that people learn if they could trust you or not. It's in those small details. Those that always had issues making their rack properly, their bed properly, were the ones that you could never trust for bigger tasks. And what became really interesting was when we ended up on the range to go shoot our rifles for the first time, all the ones that constantly had issues with those minute details of making their rack or other little things, they were all put in one group and the drill instructors hovered over them. Why was that? It was because they couldn't follow those simple instructions of making their bed. And now they've got a rifle in their hands and they're putting bullets down range, and that's a very dangerous thing. And if they couldn't be trusted making their rack, how can they be trusted to do everything safely when they were on the shooting range? So then you bring that over to real estate, and details matter. Making sure you have the right phone numbers, making sure you check the right boxes. It's the little things we do that could change so much. One box in the contract could be the difference of thousands of dollars for our clients. And if we can't do those little minute things that happen over and over and over and over again, then how are we going to take care of our clients in the long run? We can't. So we have to pay attention. We have to cross our T's. We have to dot our I's. We have to take care of all those little things so we can be entrusted in the bigger things. There's so much I've learned over my life that's helped me become successful in real estate, but I'm going to leave you with one last thing. And it was, as an air traffic controller, quick thinking was key to being successful. So in air traffic control in the tower, you're looking out at this beautiful, beautiful landscape, and you've got aircraft everywhere. You have slow ones, you have fast ones, you have jets, you have helicopters, you have civilian planes and military. You've also got aircraft that have weapons on board that sometimes don't fire like they were intended. So there you are, nice calm day. It's absolutely beautiful outside. You're controlling 3, 4, 5, 10 aircraft at one time. They're moving around your airfield, up in the air, on the ground, whatever it might be, and you have everything planned perfectly. It's like a well-oiled machine. And then out of nowhere, you get a phone call. And it's not really a phone call, it's a call over the radio, and something's gone wrong. There's an emergency in the air. An aircraft needs to land quickly. We had aircraft come in and they couldn't get their landing gear gear down. We had aircraft that didn't have enough fuel to do anything except land. We had aircraft that were close to blowing up, or ammunition that didn't go off that could blow up at any second, or their brakes were just out. So boom, there you are, a well-oiled machine, everything's looking perfect, and you get that call, and there's an emergency, and you have to think quick on your feet, and every second matters at that point. And being able to change all the plans you had in place, all has to happen in seconds. There's not time to freak out and say, oh, woe is me, poor me, I had this great plan and now somebody came in and messed it up. You have to look at the situation, you have to assess everything and make plans accordingly, very quickly, and communicate those plans to everybody involved. And it wasn't just with the aircraft, it was with other positions throughout the airfield, whether it be other air traffic controllers or emergency vehicles. And everybody is relying on you to make the right decisions. Any small mistake could cost people lives. So what do? You create that plan and you rock and roll with it. In real estate, luckily, we typically don't have lives in our hands, but we have people's finances in our hands. We have one of their greatest assets in our hands. And just recently, I was sitting there on a Thursday and hail hit. We're supposed to close on a house on Monday and hail comes down, ruins the roof. It needs a complete replace, and the roof is only 3 years old. So I could have ran back and complained to my fellow realtors. I could have posted on social media, or I could have jumped on the phone, started working right then and there before anybody else started making phone calls. And there we were on a Thursday. We already had the roofer lined up. Insurance has already been called. And we had that roof put on before that Monday closing, and the buyers were very satisfied. And the sellers got to their end goal, which was selling that house.